Now that you've done the introduction, you've done a knock and walk, you've discovered and you've built rapport, it's time to dive into the presentation. That's the second P of PIPPC. As we get into the presentation, the first thing we want to do is set the table or set the agenda. I call it an agenda. Some people call it setting the table, but we need to set that agenda for the customer to know what to expect. There's a few reasons why we do this. It psychologically tells them that there's an end to this process, that we're not there to just talk their ear off until they finally sign something. But it also shows them that we're there for a purpose and we're kind of pre-framing our intent of that visit, okay? So let's dive in, and this is how I set the agenda. So first thing I do when I set the agenda is I transition from my discovery and rapport to setting the agenda. And I do that usually with a question like this. I say, now assuming that this ends up making sense financially, is this something you would probably be interested in? It's a really soft way of saying, hey, if the numbers look good, you're gonna do this, right? But I don't wanna get a hard yes at that point. So I say something to the effect of, hey, assuming that the numbers make sense and this makes sense financially, it's probably something you'd be interested in? And I'll nod my head. And they almost always will say, yeah, of course, okay? And then I transition to the agenda. And I'll say something like, perfect. So to understand if solar makes sense for you, there's 5 things you need to understand. I keep a notebook and I like to write this out in front of the customer, actually write out the agenda. Now, some people prefer to show the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint has the agenda and the 5 steps set up for you. Do what works for you. In this video, I'm going to show you how I write it out on paper. So I write down agenda, then I write first, we're going to go over the true cost of power. I hope you guys can read my amazing handwriting, all right? And I'll actually write that down. True cost of power. True cost of power, and I explain to the customer what that is. True cost of power is not only what you spend for electricity today, but it's what we anticipate you'll spend over time. Then we're going to dive into how solar works, okay? Chair that's not squeaky. We're going to go over how solar works. We're going to dive into some of the misconceptions people have about solar. Make sure you understand exactly what it's going to do and what it's not going to do for your home. Third, we're going to get into Why-Tron. This is where I'm going to kind of show you why I chose to work with Tron, why I used Tron to put solar on my own house, even though I had worked with 2 or 3 other solar companies before coming to Tron. So we'll get into Why-Tron, and then we're going to go over your solar options. I've prepared a few options based off of what I knew about your home, and based off what you told me today, I'll kind of tweak those a little bit, but we're going to go over the specific options for your house. And then we'll talk about the next steps.